back in, everybody, to another edition of the 4D Chess Dynasty Trade Show. So glad you could make it back for another episode. Week 2 is now in the books. Holy cow, what a week it was. Interested to see some of the deals that have popped up shortly after it. We do have some big injury news, but as always, before we get to that, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube page. And if you're listening on podcast form, rate and review. And make sure that you're checking out everything that Destination Devy is doing. So much good content coming out. Just today, the day that we were recording this trade show, Troy King and Laquan LQ, Real Deal Fantasy, they made their debut, their live stream on the Destination Devy YouTube page. So make sure that you check those guys out. And always tap in down below. If you're watching, I'm pointing down. If you're just listening, imagine me pointing down. But down below in the description of the YouTube and the podcast, there'll be a link for the newsletter. Sign the hell up. I can't keep saying it enough, but so much good stuff on there. But without further ado, let me kick it over to the better half of 4D Chess. Adam, how you doing, buddy? You ready to do some trades this week?
Absolutely, man. I'm going to age myself here, but this is because we taking over. Destination Devy is taking over the world right now. The acquisitions, the new names, all the new podcasts, and we're just getting started. So make sure you're tapped into everybody that's doing content with Destination Devy. I promise you that if you like our stuff, you will find value in everything that Destination Devy is bringing. So without further ado, Mike, let's go ahead and kick it off with one of my trades yet again. And it's with T-Rock, one of Mike's favorite people in the whole world. So let's see what we have cooking here.
All right, Adam, you acquired a 23-second and a 23-second for one Jahan Dotson. All right, give the people some context behind this deal. Is this a lineup? Is this best ball league? You contender, you rebuilder. Yep. I mean, you sent away our boy, Jahan Dotson, for 2 seconds, and this man is blowing up. So explain yourself.
Okay. Let me give you the context first and foremost. So this is a lineup league. I think it's 10 or 11. It's not 9, but it's 10 or 11. Dotson, I love Dotson. He started off really well. You may look at this and say it's light, and I wouldn't fight you if you do. I would say this, though, for context, Mike. I now have 5 23-seconds. And, like, I know in lineup sometimes seconds don't get enough value. But I think that the seconds, the plethora of them, as a contender, I'll be able to really leverage them for 2 pieces of players that I really need at the right time. So this is more of a strategic move than I think it is on the face value, just Dotson for 2 seconds. Like a lot of times in lineup, Mike, I don't think I would move Dotson for 2 seconds. And T-Rock's rebuilding too. So it's kind of antithetical to everything you'd normally think about in a deal like this. I'll say this too, because T-Rock's rebuilding, that second is probably going to be a top 3 pick, maybe even top 2. And then Jordan Huffman, who's supposed to be contending, is 0-2 to start off the season. So another reason why I was comfortable making this deal.
Okay. Yeah, you get some context, some feel behind the picks, and I can understand it just on the surface. So, I mean, when you pull it up and I'm just like, well, 2 random seconds, those could be mid to late. Who the hell knows?
Give me Dotson, right?
Yeah, give me Dotson. You put the context behind it, though, the great point that you brought in there about being a contender but still having some future assets that you can buy pieces when you need them. Like, shit, man, I need a running back this week. Well, let me go see if I can package a couple seconds and go buy me a couple spot starts from a running back. Now,
right.
You don't have to go to the super gross ones and buy a Rex Burkhead for a third or anything like that. You can actually buy legitimate running back pieces or, you know, man, this first week, the first couple of weeks, we've seen a couple of quarterback injuries, right? Big time quarterback injuries that are really shifting the landscape. So having that ability to go out and even get a Jared Goff type to just to get you by for a week or two is going to be massive. So when you put the context behind it, I do like it, man. But no doubt when you pull it up and I first look at it, I'm like, what are we doing here, man? Jahan Dotson? How the hell could you let him go for 2 random seconds?
I know when Mike first read this, Mike's first reading this thinking, Raptor and T-Rock's names are swapped here. Like something's wrong. I'm looking at
What?
this all
What
wrong.
happened?
Congrats, T-Rock. I even told him after the deal, I'm like, I think, because what's funny is he said, I love that you offered me that, but I need to think about it. And then he
Oh,
took it. So he for a few hours is thinking like, why does this feel too good to be true from ATM? And
I
I told him,
love
I'm
it.
like, it's probably light on the current value, but I'm doing something here that's a little deeperly thought out. So
Hell
that that
yes,
is
buddy.
that's my trade. Let's get into some of the people's trades, Mike.
Let's go. We got a Chris Olave in a 23 second being acquired for Cortland Sutton. Our guy, Cortland Sutton. Adam, what do you feel about this? You want the Olave in the second, or do you want one Cortland Sutton?
I'll give you mine. I really want to hear what you have to say about this, Mike, because this is two of your, like, you've been very high on both these guys.
Yes.
You've been higher on Olave than I have, so I will give you my feedback, but I would love to hear yours first, just because like these feel like two McNutted staples all off season right here.
If I'm on a rebuilder or a best ball, there is no question in my mind I will take the Olave in the second side. Contender, I have a little bit more love for Cortland Sutton. I'm going to say this, though. Chris Olave is playing really, really well. He's doing something that not a lot of rookies have ever done, and that's saying something because we've seen Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. But if you look at some analytical data, like the raw stats don't look the greatest, but holy hell, man, the targets are there. The air yard share is definitely there. I mean, they are throwing the ball down the field to this man a lot. He is really producing. Man, on a contender, I think I still want to go with the Cortland Sutton side, but like you touched on before, this could be a situation where I'm comfortable coming off Cortland Sutton and even going to somebody that I think will probably produce a little bit less for me this year. But to get that second, maybe to buy a piece or to grease the wheels on a future deal to help me out when I really need it, to really give me an advantage. You know what? I'm going to go the Olave and the Sutton side, no matter the format, lineup, rebuild, contender, whatever, best ball. Give me Olave in the second. Hell of a deal there. The
Man,
Natty Icicle.
you know what?
Natty Icicle.
I shouldn't have let you done that, because you just did what I was like. That's literally what I was gonna say. Everything you just said. I have nothing left to add.
I'm
You
sorry.
would think on the surface that Sutton poses this stronger advantage. You know, give me that Sutton upgrade, the up tier from Olave in the second. But really, when you dive into the dynamics of it, Mike, unless see the only way I'm going to defend the other side is if Matty Boy is just loaded and he's like, you know what, I'm going to forgo the Olave thing. I'm going to forgo
Mm-hmm.
the age because I know this is 212, and I feel more stable with Sutton, especially with like Judy being hurt and him clearly having a chance to be this alpha role. And let's be honest, Denver does take a step forward probably at some point this year. I don't think that offense is going to be as bad as it's been for the first 2 weeks
Yes.
all year, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give some credit to Matty Boy if that's the scenario. But I'll say this, man, to your point, like I'm with you primarily. Olave in the second on the value surface of it. I think this is a not as sexy of a tear down though, but it's a tear down that is a savvy move. I think truly, because you're de-risking too so many things that can happen. Like Mike, let's talk not at length, but real quickly. What we've seen in 2 weeks, what we see every year that's always forgotten in the offseason is injuries happen, right? You're
Yes.
de-risking yourself from a lot of variables that are not in your control when it comes to dynasty and fantasy football. So I think overall, I tend to really side with Natty Icicle because of all the outs that you have with Olave in that second.
I get it, buddy. I get it. It's a good one. Like I said, there's some scenarios that you brought up about the Cortland Sutton side where I could see it. Like if I already owned Russ and two, like my team's loaded, maybe I just try to get the stack and I'm going to plug Sutton in as my third wide receiver, and
Right.
he blows up with Russ. Now I'm hitting the stack too. I kind of get that too.
Yeah.
So there is that out, but just generally what I know with the context of this deal, it sucks to say it because I love Cortland Sutton too, but you hit it on the fucking head, man. Like those 2 outs versus 1 out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you mitigate so much risk there. So,
Mm-hmm.
not the sexiest tear down, but still a hell of a tear down. I will take those kind of tear downs and just multiply them up as I go on.
All day, baby. Let's talk about a deal from our boy Gump here.
Holy
You
cow.
you already know, Mike, that I would have had something to say about this if Akers would have received another 3 carries this week. But
Oh, yeah.
we know what we know today. We're doing this on Tuesday. You will get this almost a full week later on Monday. We're doing this September 20th. But, Mike, go ahead. Talk to us about what this trade is.
Gump acquired Cam Akers and Jordan Mason. Right? It's going to be a hot name this week, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For Tony Pollard.
Yep.
That's it. If you were waiting for me to say something else, that's it. Tony Pollard for Cam Akers. And Gump got a dart. He got a dart added on, and one that might pay off for him. Well, holy shit.
Mike, you got to love overreaction season, right? I mean, Cam Akers in week 1 plays hardly any snaps, right? He gets 3 touches, a backward lateral pass that becomes a carry for 3 carries and net 0 yards. And Twitter went bananas. All the McNutted trolls on the other side of the Akers came out, right? And it became Akers and a plus, and I'll take Pollard. That's how much the narrative can change in 1 week of Dynasty football, which I will forever preach that overreaction in week 1 is one of the strongest things you'll ever see. People have not seen football for so long, and they see Cam Akers basically not playing behind Darrell Henderson at all, right? And they panic, absolutely panic. And now what's funny too, Mike, is Mason, listen, Jordan Mason right now, even with, TDP being hurt, even with Elijah being hurt, still is a name that's not going to carry a ton of weight. But it's funny how this was before the TDP injury, right? The high ankle. And nice little plus. Very subtle. Probably most people won't even give much thought to it. Now, though, you're looking at a running back on an offense that has shown you that you have value if you get the workload. And it's now down to him and Jeff Wilson, really, right? Like, this is savage robbery by our boy Gump, who also now has a podcast. A little plug to him. Mike, I'm going to kick it to you. Wow.
Absolute theft. Absolute huge theft. And I'm not even the biggest Akers guy on this show. Yeah, that title always goes to you, buddy. But geez, man, I don't know how you get a plus. I don't know how that conversation goes where it's like, yeah, and I'll kick you a dart. Why not? Why not?
I think this is so savvy because at the point when they made the trade, right, clearly it was a panic move, and I'm thinking this other person, Dark Helmet's thinking it's Pollard over Akers. What's crazy is, despite the fact that in week 1, Mike, Dallas scored 3 points while Dak was healthy.
Yes,
right?
And you knew Dak was injured when you made this trade.
It is amazing. But even still, right, you're going to say it's Tony Pollard. And the plus was so nice here because it's one that's so far down the list, right? One that doesn't carry a ton of weight before TDP's injury. This, I'm assuming, was after Mitchell's injury. But regardless, if I'm going to take a dart all the way down here, give me a running back that is on that team that has a chance of being gold if it strikes, albeit probably a slim chance. And now it's down to him and Jeff Wilson. This is crazy.
You might be able to trade him this week for just a third, any third, and it's all profit. It's all profit.
Oh gosh, imagine if you have a Elijah Mitchell and Jeff Wilson owner that's now like, okay, I need Mason just to make sure I'm safe. Like, give me the deep dark handcuff, the dark helmet handcuff. Let's move on to another deal.
Oh boy! All right, we got Deshaun Watson being acquired for A.J. Dillon and a 23 first. Now, A.J. Dillon has been playing well, and Deshaun Watson's kind of the forgotten man being out there in suspension land. Not believe land, suspension land, Adam. You want Watson or you want A.J. Dillon in this 23 first, which we'll just assume is random, mid to late? You're shaking your head, buddy.
This is amazing to me. Honestly, this is amazing to me. We're 2 weeks closer to Watson coming back. We have definitively a date. We're 2 weeks closer to that date. So like, I'm just thinking, if I'm Danny Diablo and I've been sitting on Watson and it's going into week 3 or going into week 2, and it's like, you know what? Damn it. Now's the time I got to do it. I'm going to move him now. You're so close. You see the light at the end of the tunnel and you do this. Japper, Jay Peters, our boy, a patron to Destination Devi and to the shit show. I mean, Mike, this is... Here's the thing. Like, I'm genuinely trying my hardest to just think of Danny Diablo's sides here. The first is coming from a Jay Fila, right? Like, Mike, I think the only way that this is even having a conversation is if you're telling me Jay Fila's team is so ass that we're talking about a Bijan territory guy.
Yep.
Or your pick, your pick of the 23 quarterbacks. Like, honestly, if it's not that, I don't understand how this goes through and how Danny Diablo says I need to do this. Because the other thing is, like, if you're pivoting off of Watson, right? I could see if this is some quarterback, Kirk Cousins, Tom Brady, whoever the hell you're not even getting a quarterback. Like, this is criminal. Like, I'm trying my hardest to think this through, and as I think it through, I'm making it more egregious every time I turn about it.
Listen, we know A.J. Dillon plays fantasy football, right? Does a lot of stuff with Sleeper, does the Sleeper Bowl every year. I don't even think A.J. Dillon would make this trade on a Dynasty team with himself, right? He'd be like, hell no, I ain't trading myself.
Bro, I like me a lot, but what? No.
Trade for myself?
What are you, crazy? What are you, nuts?
Yeah, Danny Diablo kind of turned into a little engine that couldn't hold his load, right? Just why? You're so close. You made it another week. You've gone through all the downs, right? And we're starting to get back on the upward slide where we're getting closer and closer to Deshaun Watson being back on the field and returning to full value. And nah, I'm good.
I've thought so much about this too, Mike. Even as you're talking, like, I'm thinking directions, I'm thinking everything. Like, there's just nowhere way I'm doing this. Because as a contender, right? Like, the only way I could see trading Watson at this point is if you're getting more and you're a contender and you just need to have the value now. But you're not getting a quarterback here. You're getting a running back that still, after we saw week 2, is the 1B, you know, or 50-50, whatever you want to call it, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a running back. Like I don't have anything left to say. Mike, if you got anything to hit on, let's do it now.
No. Sorry about
great
Danny.
trade, Jay.
Sorry,
Danny
buddy.
Diablo. That trade was not spicy for anything other than you being roasted. We got the Who's, our boy Blitz.
All right, so he's acquiring Aaron Jones and Kadarius Toney. In return, he sent away Chris Godwin, and that's it. That's it. Oh boy, maybe right after week 1, Adam.
That's
Aaron
when this
Jones,
was for sure.
People are panicking a little bit. We know about Kadarius Toney, but we also knew Chris Godwin pulled a hammy from possibly coming back too early off a major knee injury, which I wish, somebody would have told us about that to be cautious. I wonder who could have done that a few times.
No way. No way anyone did that, because you would have to have a crystal ball for that. There's no way anybody knew or saw it coming. So with that being said, and there's no way anyone knew, here's the thing. We finally did know that Chris Godwin is hurt because he came back too soon. Or even if it isn't, he's hurt. He pulls a hammy, right? Coming off of a multi-ligament knee injury. Still carries a lot of weight, a name weight, right? Chris Godwin. Like, I don't care what he does. Like, he's going to carry name weight. Like, what we've seen from him.
Yep.
Man, it's funny because I feel like we're looking at this with hindsight 2020 now, because I do understand and I do know that there was real serious concern with Aaron Jones week 1. However, Mike, I was the one that told you, and we talked about it on our AMA. We talked about it at length, I think, that Aaron Jones was a buy for us. We always were in. But even more so knowing that A.J. Dillon got more touches, but that Aaron Jones played more snaps after week 1. And it was a overreaction season week 1. I feel like this is literally the week 1 overreaction season 40 chest Dynasty trade show. That's a mouthful for you. But, like, you're buying Aaron Jones cheap. You're getting Kadarius Toney essentially as a throw-in. I mean, even if you're buying Aaron Jones cheap, they're probably parallel in startup values, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I really like what he did. Now, granted, we saw Aaron Jones be far more featured in week 2. I would say I was expecting him to do better in week 2, but maybe not quite be that featured. But the point is, this is a savvy move, and you're moving Godwin. We talked about this in a lot of our shows, Mike. Move Godwin off the name, especially after the hamstring in week 1, because I think this is just going to be a season that, not saying I'm out on him on Dynasty long term, but this could be a season that's not going to give you what you need on a contending side.
He has some dynasty concerns too. Like what happens next year? Who's the quarterback in Tampa if he stays and doesn't get traded, and the whole works and everything that goes on if he doesn't leave in free agency. I think he's still under the franchise tag, is he not, or did they work out a long-term deal? I can't, I'm sorry, my brain shut off there for a minute, but either way, doesn't matter. Still has long-term concerns, Adam. The Aaron Jones thing, man, what a way to buy low on Aaron Jones and sell on name value of Chris Godwin. And the funny thing about Aaron Jones is he actually played less snaps this week than he did the week before.
But they featured him getting the rock. Yep.
He actually got the football, and he's just ridiculously efficient. Do you remember we were doing the recap show on Sunday, and somebody was like, I have A.J. Brown, and I'm up 14, but I'm going against Aaron Jones. And
I sure do. And we told them feel cozy, and I don't know if they won. I'll say this too, Mike. You know what's funny?
My bad.
You know what's funny? Though, real quick, is when you think about, like, a lot of times people look at raw numbers and don't watch the game and don't understand that raw numbers are very good, but there's also context behind them, right? Week 1 and week 2 were so different for them, right? And I think the game script in week 1, we've seen Green Bay play horrible in week 1, and I think the game script got away from them, right? So Green Bay is pressing, right? They got a bunch of new offensive weapons on the field. Lazard's not playing. Adams is gone, right? And I think it got away from them what they wanted to do. And so you saw his snap share be up, but him not get the ball a lot. I think they talked a lot about making sure he got the ball a lot in week 2. And what's funny is I think his snap share comes down, Mike, because they actually are leading and they're winning a lot. So when you look and you think about it, we're going to give the 1B guy a lot of the rock late. Like, we're just trying to run the clock out. Let's give it to our big, heavy thumper, A.J. Dillon. But I think Aaron Jones in week 2 proved that he still is going to be a feature piece in this offense.
I think the thing going for him that is so good and so that made me not panic as much, Adam, was the fact that he can be extremely efficient on limited touches. Like he can blow up in a hurry, and the way they utilize him and Aaron Jones is we're going to thump you to death with A.J. Dillon, and A.J. Dillon is good in the passing game too. Like it's not like, oh, we know they're running the football and A.J. Dillon is it. That's not necessarily the case, but A.J. Dillon, man, you get tired of tackling that guy, kind of like Derrick Henry. But if you do a good job of scheming with Aaron Jones, you can get Aaron Jones in space and design plays specifically for Aaron Jones to be like, Aaron, all you got to do is beat this one dude, and you're going to break off a chunk play. And Aaron has the ability to deliver it. So that's what I really like, the combination of it. He's not going to be this, Saquon Barkley type where he's getting 90% of the touches, right? We just know it's his offense. And
correct.
He's explosive like Saquon Barkley, not the same size and not used in the same way. But to see them make that adjustment to get him the ball more in space and not necessarily play him more or have him run more routes, because he actually ran less routes this week than he did the week before. But to scheme him open and scheme him in a way to get him the ball in space and let him do what he does best and use A.J. Dillon to be that hammer up the middle. I love it. Aaron Jones, Kadarius Toney side on this trade. Great job, Blitz. Absolutely phenomenal.
Great job. And Toney's an afterthought, and he's not looked great, and he's not seeing the field. A lot of panic, let's call it. But he's still a athlete that I think if is given the opportunity could be something for you. So good little plus as well. When we get into this one, Mike, let's talk about a big deal here. Let's talk about a good one here. So
we got Mitch Trubisky, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Kenny Pickett being acquired for Mac Jones, a 24 first, and a 20 23 seconds. So Trubisky, Pickett, you get the whole Steelers quarterback situation outside of Mason Rudolph, who you probably don't want anyways, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. In return, you send away Mac Daddy, a 24 first and a 23 second. What do you feel about this one, buddy?
This one's pretty interesting, Mike. And a lot of different reasons I would say it's interesting. I'm going to tell you why I think when I start looking at the deal, right? So you're getting the Pittsburgh combo. I'm not one for handcuffing, period. But, I do understand if you have Mac Jones and you want to go to Kenny Pickett, like, you do need a starter until Pickett becomes the thing. We talked about this last start-sit show or last recap show or whatever it was, that for all Pittsburgh offensive weapons, I think Pickett needs to happen sooner than later. We're hoping for that because Mitch just is not it. Regardless, you still want in Superflex to have a guy you can plug in until Pickett becomes the thing. But you got the little mid-gap guy and you got the long-term asset in Pickett. And I think when Pickett becomes a starter in Pittsburgh, Mike, I still lean Mac Jones, but it becomes close for those two, I think. I think there's a conversation to be had. Then we're looking at Amon-Ra St. Brown, a 24 first and a 23 second, right? So I think that is getting close for me. Amon-Ra St. Brown for a first and a second. I'll say this, though, from a contending standpoint right now, I'm not sure that there's much of a difference between Mac Jones and whatever Pittsburgh quarterback is going out there every week as far as points per game. Maybe I lean Mac, but I don't think it's a big difference. I would say this. Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're paying up because he's killed it. Yes. But if this guy is truly what we saw in the back half of last year and what we've seen so far, he's one of these value jumping guys that I'm not really sure that a true pick value, what we're thinking, is actually real. Because if he keeps on what he's doing, I mean, Mike, we're talking significant rise. So I think the big X factor variable in this one is Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think as a contender, I really like what Lightning Panda did, but I'm not going to say he got it as some crazy steal.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's some crazy steal. This one kind of hurts because there's a lot of dudes that I love.
They're all over the place, right? 24 first, you were just talking about how much you loved a minute ago, right?
Every piece of this deal I love except for Mitch Trubisky. No to Mitch Trubisky. But if I look at it, man, give me Mac Jones over Kenny Pickett. I don't think that's a hot take. And I love Kenny Pickett, but I have a huge love for Mac Jones. I think he's phenomenal. Just please get him a real number one wide receiver. Please.
And a better play caller.
Yeah, and a better play caller. But I love Amon-Ra. And if I look at it, Amon-Ra over the random 24 first and 23 second, I probably want Amon-Ra. I'm not going to lie here. I think the 24 class is going to be phenomenal, but
for sure,
Amon-Ra is that dude.
And 2 years out, too.
And 2 years out.
And when you look, Mike, I think the other big thing is Lightning Panda is getting the Pittsburgh combo, but picking up Amon-Ra really makes me think, especially sending a 24 pick away, that he's a strong contender. So if you're telling me the team's really good and that 24 first is looking more late, that's where I think this conversation could really swing more towards Lightning Panda. I'm not going to say a steal, but him really pulling the wool over the eyes of the value game.
Listen, the more I look at this, the more I think it is a crazily good move for Lightning Panda.
Right. Very well constructed, yes.
I love Mac in the picks. I'm not dunking on this side by any stretch, but the fact I hate handcuffing on there. But if I'm going to do this as a contender, this is the kind of move where it's I'm good at the quarterback position. You kind of mentioned right now where it is. Mac is phenomenal with what he has, but fantasy points per game, you're right. Mitch has got awful, but they're about the same where we're at now. You're hoping when Kenny Pickett gets in, it's a better situation. So, and you get Amon-Ra, and you send away your 24 first, which you're probably projecting to be late, and a 23 second, which we don't know where it's going to be. So, hell yeah. Yeah, Lightning Panda, bravo. The more I look at it, the more it grows on me. I just see Mac Jones and I see some picks and I lose my mind and I get all like, Mac Jones and picks, but well constructed deal. Well constructed deal. I think if I'm on the other side, if I'm on a
I
rebuilder,
was just gonna ask you, so go ahead.
Mac Jones, the first and the second. I like that side on a rebuilder too. I really do. And in best ball league, Adam, you know how much I love to just multiply assets. I can get Pickett, and I send away Amon Ra. I get Mac a 24 first and a 23 second. I get 3 shots at something good for 2 assets, and one of the assets I would rank over the Kenny Pickett side. So
Yep.
that's where I'm at too on that side too.
I would say if you're rebuilding, some guy named Matt, well constructed name here for sleeper as well. I would say this too. You're kind of with this trade. What's interesting is you're getting an up tier, but a youthful one in Mac Jones,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
But what's interesting too is like I don't know. Like Cole Clark is someone that we don't know. Like if that's a 23 first that has a chance to be on the earlier side, I get where he's going right on the rebuild side if that has a chance. And then what's interesting too is you and I do this a lot, Mike. Let's just put it on the table.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to take picks from a strong contender, a lot of times I'll take the devalued ones that are out a year or two, thinking like, all right,
Yes.
team's loaded, it's going to win, but it's going to collapse. And if you're going to bet against Lightning Panda's strong contending team, like I don't know what the rest of it looks like, but if it's like one of these contenders that's built to win right now, maybe by the time the 2024 mid-season playoffs are coming around, like you're looking at, oh shit, like this 24 first might have way more value than I traded for when I sent away Amon Ra right now at his peak.
That's one of the big things that you talked about right there, buddy, that I also look at too, where it's, anything can happen at any time. And right, we've seen some major injuries and some major shifts, but when I'm looking at picks and I'm going, even if this guy loses 2, 3, 4 pieces, or they miss some sort of time, he's still a really strong contender and is probably going to be right there in the running. Now, one of the things I like to do though is hedge that bet, where I go, if I go and get to 24, not only does he have to survive this year, he also needs to survive next year, and time is his biggest enemy during that time. So for me
Time is money, man. And you
Yep.
know what? To your point too, you made real quickly, the injury thing, right? Like I would say, Mike, I have a best ball team. I would have called it the most indestructible team. Like I would say the Titanic of dynasty teams. Indestructible. You can't sink this ship, right? And it's
down.
week 2, and Trey Lance went down, and like I'm not like I still think I'm the easy favorite, but we're having a discussion with like it not being just leaps and bounds now. You know what I mean? Like it's now it's still probably the best team, but we're having a conversation with like, dude, it's week 2, Mike. We're talking about 18-week season, right? Like week 17 is the playoff. What if we're talking about 4 more injuries? You're talking about possibly sinking this damn Titanic, right? Like that's the thing about 24 first is it's so far out, and as much as we always think we know, we don't know enough. We just don't.
The early season can humble the best of us. Can absolutely humble the best of us. So
All of us, right? We got one last one to get to, Mike, and
what the hell's going on here?
I can tell you. It's the narrative. It's the theme. It's overreaction. Week 1 season. Go ahead.
We got Devontae Smith and a 24 fourth being acquired for Isaiah McKenzie, a 24 second, and a 23 second. What the hell? What the hell's going on here?
Who is this Isaiah McKenzie guy?
I don't know. Is he good at football? I don't know. Maybe.
He's on a great
Possibly.
offense.
Cool.
He's the Jamison Crowder, but with youth, I guess. Maybe like if I'm being rose-colored glasses, right? Like
I guess.
I love the overreaction season, Mike. And honestly, you know what's funny? We talked about we did the AMA. We hadn't pulled the trades. We need to pull the trades quickly. I literally clicked on 7 deals, like boom, 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 boom. And this is overreactions. It's literally what I promised was going to happen. It's overreaction season. But I love the fact that I think truly when I look at these deals, by and large, it's Dynasty degenerates in Destination Devi, and it's shitheads in our South Harmon that are making savvy overreaction moves. Right? They're buying the panic. They're seeing and smelling the panic, and they're taking advantage. And Tyler Kroll here, man. I love what you did because I have been a big Devontae Smith Slim Reaper pusher. And the canvas that was given away in Destination Devi, that was my doing. I'm a big Devontae Smith guy.
Mm-hmm.
This is like when I think about the offseason, Mike, and where he was going, right? So he was trending very highly, right? Let's just talk briefly about Devontae Smith because he was trending very highly. They made the trade for A.J. Brown during the draft. What's funny is they didn't draft someone to move Devontae Smith down, but during the draft they traded for A.J. Brown, which then sunk Devontae Smith's value quite a bit.
Yes.
And what's funny, too, is the combination of that narrative, right, combined with week one of him not catching a pass. It was like in my personal opinion, the bad narrative was then cemented by week one production that was probably way too reactionary. And it went to this, Mike. Full panic. Full panic. Full panic. Mackenzie. Like, the Bills look great. And let me just get a receiver on that team that's going to catch any pass. And I'll take 2 seconds. Dude, this is so bad. Tyler Kroll, I really applaud you, too, because it's funny how after just 1 week, there were people that were super panicked on Devontae Smith. So, well done. Round of applause for Tyler Kroll, in my opinion. Go ahead, Mike.
I love it too, right? You come out week one. Like I said, I had some worries about the amount of targets A.J. Brown was receiving in week one. And like Jalen Hurts didn't have eyes for anybody but him. Also, Jalen Hurts didn't have the greatest game passing, right? He had some moments in week one where you're like, oh, man, this is like some of the same stuff that we saw. I don't know if it's week one, and he just kind of had some jitters. Like a lot of teams don't come out on the best foot in week one. How about I put it that way? Like sometimes it takes a little bit. And what happens in week two, right? Jalen Hurts comes out and looks phenomenal throwing the football, highly accurate. And Devontae Smith gets a shit ton of targets, right? Second on the team behind A.J. Brown, if I'm not mistaken.
What's
8
funny,
to 7.
What's funny, Mike, is it was almost like I was telling people, like, yeah, A.J. Brown is the first read in the offense. He's going to always be. Won't fight you there, right? But in week one, when you don't have film, I'm looking at A.J. Brown, and he's not, like, overly focused on, okay, it's going to 11. It's going to A.J. Brown. I won't fight you. He's the alpha. But all of a sudden now you look at tape and you see A.J. Brown got, 13 targets?
Mm-hmm.
And he's the offense, right? And Devontae Smith didn't catch a pass. Like, let's shift some attention to this number 11. Now all of a sudden number 6, he's running spank open. And Mike, you saw in this offense too, because it runs the ball so well and there's a lot of these read options. That is only going to mean bigger plays and more open runs after the catch for Devontae Smith. Love what I saw out of him in week 2, and I just love the savviness of buying this at the perfect time, because this is stupid, and it's only done, I personally believe, after a week 1 dumb narrative of Devontae Smith's dead.
Yes, you're 100% right on that. Great deal, Tyler. Great deal. That's a way to end it too. Like, you get to see a steal for Devontae Smith, and after last night too, when he kind of put the haters to night.
Go to sleep. Yeah, man. The Slim Reaper, man. You left him for dead, and you did it even after week 1. I love seeing the trades, man. I love seeing how active and how savvy a lot of the patrons are for Destination Devi and for our South Harmon, the shitheads, man. It honestly makes me feel really good about all the content we put out and how much, like, everybody really is tapped in and does things that just make sense. Like, I love seeing that, man. It makes me want to create more content, honest to God.
Yeah, we don't even have to agree with every single one, but you can see the thought processes evolving,
right,
and getting better.
Right.
And there's actual real meaning behind it, right? We titled the show everything that we do on Destination Debbie's 4D chess, 4D chess, 4D chess. What the hell does that even mean? Right? Well, everybody else is playing 3D chess. Adam, you finished the show. Just remember, when your league mates are playing chess, play 4D chess. Take it to the next level.
Yeah, man.
Think a couple steps ahead. So if people want to panic and want to be dumb and want to go, oh my gosh, Isaiah McKenzie, a couple seconds. Devontae Smith's going to be nothing. Go out and buy the hate. Go out and buy the hate and buy the overreaction.
Tony Pollard's better than Cam Akers.
Tony Pollard is better than Cam Akers. This was a show full of overreactions. Absolute ridiculous overreactions.
I didn't mean for it to be that way, but it's funny how that is totally just what happens after 1 week of football. And
hell,
I would say this too. Last little point I would make is that a lot of the nuances of the deals, right? Like, Mike, there was a couple deals we talked about where on the surface you're not sure, and then you start thinking about like what's happening, and I really believe that proves that there's thought process behind what the patrons are doing here, man. So everybody submitting trades. Mike and I may dunk on you, a time or two again, right? You're not going to do everything like we do. We sometimes are different than the rest, but
yes.
As a whole, man, I love the community. I love what everyone's bringing to us, and here's another trade show in the books, and we're 20 in. And believe me when I tell you that after 120, we're still coming back.
Still coming back, same time, same place, same destination, wherever you like to consume it. We appreciate you. Just a reminder, if you want to get a trade featured, down in the description on the YouTube, but I'll also say it here for the podcast, folks. Patreon.com/allgas gets you into the Destination Debbie Discord. You have a Dynasty trade channel that you can post stuff in. And if you'd like to come over and check us out and see what we got going on, Patreon.com/South Harmon. We also have a trade channel where you can come in and post your wins, or if you're T-Rock, most of your losses.
and what's funny is I was trying to split it up right between half and half, and after clicking 3 deals on our side, I realized that 2 of them were also on the Destination Debbie side. So we have plenty of guys that are subscribed to both.
So much crossover. Yeah.
Listen, this is the place to be, and the growth is only going to continue, but we appreciate you bringing the deals. Let us know what you think of our assessment. Let us know where we went right or went wrong. We appreciate everybody tapping in, man.
Appreciate you guys. We're out of here. We'll see you next week. Peace.